Season 2 of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage has done something surprising, and honestly, something necessary. It has shown Georgie Cooper's ugly side. Not in a way that makes him unlikable or villainous, but in a way that makes him painfully human. For years, Georgie has mostly existed in the young Sheldon and first marriage universe as the charming, well-meaning, mildly irresponsible older brother. But this season pulls back the curtain and forces viewers to acknowledge the flaws he's been carrying since adolescence, flaws that didn't magically disappear when he became a husband or a father. What makes the shift feel so honest is that the show doesn't exaggerate anything for drama. Georgie's struggles come from real places: insecurity, pressure, fear, pride, and a desperate need to prove himself. One of the clearest examples of this is how he handles responsibility. Owning the store, raising a child, and being the head of a household at barely 20 years old is overwhelming for anyone. But instead of asking for help or admitting when he's at his breaking point, Georgie tries to muscle through everything alone. And that's where the cracks begin to show. He starts cutting corners, lying, hiding details from Mandy, and making decisions out of panic instead of logic. These aren't evil choices, they're immature ones. But they're also the choices that lead to pain, mistrust, and spiraling consequences. Another area where the season exposes Georgie's darker side is in the way he handles stress. He's always been emotional, but Season 2 magnifies how badly he reacts when he feels like he's losing control. Whether it's money problems, parenting challenges, or Mandy's growing career, Georgie swings between defensiveness and frustration. He snaps, gets jealous, shuts down, or storms off, behavior that mirrors the teenage delinquent we saw in young Sheldon. The difference now is that these reactions have real stakes. Instead of affecting only himself, they impact Mandy, CC, and their entire future. The show makes it clear that Georgie isn't a kid anymore, and those childish behaviors hit harder and cut deeper now. Jealousy is another prominent part of Georgie's ugly side this season. Mandy's career is taking off. She's gaining visibility, and she finally has something that's hers after years of struggle. Georgie supports her, but underneath that support is a simmering sense of insecurity. He's afraid that Mandy might outgrow him, that she might see a bigger world than the one he can offer. And instead of communicating these fears, he lets them fester. His discomfort shows up in petty comments, sulking, and passive-aggressive behavior. It's not malicious, it's human. But it's also messy. And in a marriage already built on shaky foundation, those insecurities become explosive. Season 2 also doesn't shy away from Georgie's tendency to lie. Not big, dramatic lies, but small, constant ones meant to protect his pride. He lies about money. He lies about mistakes. He lies to avoid disappointing Mandy, even though the lies end up hurting her more. And the show frames these moments not as plot twists, but as character traits Georgie must confront. These lies mirror the patterns that will eventually contribute to their divorce later in life. In that sense, the writers are setting up the emotional groundwork for a breakup that is both heartbreaking and inevitable. They're showing the seeds before the storm hits. Perhaps the most uncomfortable part of Georgie's ugly side is how quickly he isolates himself when things get difficult. Instead of leaning on the people who love him, even those who've already forgiven him for worse, he retreats into silence and stubbornness. It's a self-destructive loop. Georgie feels overwhelmed, so he withdraws. Withdrawal makes everything worse, so he feels guilty. Guilt makes him lash out, which pushes Mandy further away. And that distance makes him feel even more inadequate. It's a cycle the show handles with surprising emotional depth, especially for a sitcom-leaning series. But here's the important thing: showing Georgie's ugly side doesn't make him a bad person. It makes him real. If anything, Season 2 finally gives him the depth that young Sheldon never allowed him to have. We're watching a young man who is forced to grow up too fast, try to juggle marriage, fatherhood, and business ownership without any real preparation. We're seeing the cracks in a foundation that was never stable to begin with. And the more the season reveals about Georgie's flaws, the clearer it becomes that he isn't a villain, he's a product of his circumstances, trying desperately not to drown. In the end, exposing Georgie's flaws isn't about tearing him down. It's about building him into a more complete character. It's about acknowledging that love, responsibility, and ambition mean nothing if a person can't confront the messy parts of themselves. Season 2 is giving viewers the full picture: the charm, the frustration, the mistakes, the fear, and the growth. And whether fans love or hate what they're seeing, there's no denying that Georgie Cooper has never felt more human.